Hi guys, welcome to Danny Rants, episode 3. Today I am seated next to an absolute music giant. He's been in the industry for well over 2 decades plus, Joey Nemer. He's worked for Illusive and Mushroom. I'm not going to carry on what he does, but he's one of the Australian hip hop absolute pioneers. He's probably worked in it longer than anybody else in Australia. So Joey, how are you today?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I can't complain.
There's actually maybe 1 or 2 other people that have been around longer than me.
Who?
Well, Trent, who's been around it, Trent from Slingshot.
Yeah.
He's one, one other person that's been, and when it comes to hip hop, he's been in it, for a while. The other person, let me come back to you about that one. So we'll have a think about that.
So Joey, explain a little bit about what you've done in your history and I guess how long you've worked for Illusive and Mushroom, even what you did before.
Well, I started off learning the ropes in underage events, and this is back going 97, 98, and this is when we had a healthy under 18 events in Melbourne.
What venues were you doing, like Metro and stuff?
Well, start off at Warehouse, then it was Tattoo, QBH, we did Chasers under 18. There was all the town hall events that used to run, which, today we don't have that.
Nah.
Kids don't have anywhere to go. Every school holidays, you had 10 different events to go to.
Why do you reckon that's shut down?
Well, it comes to licensing, how much it costs to run the under 18 events these days.
Trouble?
It costs a fortune to de-license a venue so you don't have to serve alcohol for 6 hours. So, but I started working there and I built my way up that way. You have to know everything when it comes to, running events, putting on shows. It's not just like, hey, I'm going to go to a uni and learn it through textbooks. You learn it as you go along.
Totally.
We've made plenty of mistakes running under 18 events, but some of the biggest things were, working with, guys that are still promoting clubs these days, your Morellos, your Errols,
Paul Barbaro.
Paul was there as well, Kevin.
Yep.
And we did everything. I remember, I think the happiest achievement for me was when we took over Time Underage at the Metro. I think it was 2002 we took over. It was dead. Alistair was the,
Kennedy?
Alistair Kennedy brought us in and he's like, we need to turn this around. There's 400 people coming to Time Underage. I used to go to Time Underage. Saturday afternoons from 12 o'clock to 6 p.m. they used to run it, and you'll get 2,000 kids there every school holidays. And then, we all sat down. I was working on the Usher tour, which was the 8701 tour.
So before you were 18?
This was, I was probably 19. Oh, no, I was about 20.
Yeah, wow, that's young as. Working on Usher. How big was Usher at that time?
Usher had released his first album, which had My Way. The second album was the one that I feel was his best album. He had U-Turn, Got It Bad, so he had all the hits on there. And so I was doing the street marketing for it. So my job was, not to do the, go and book ads in newspaper and billboards and all that, but go to venues and say, hey, I've got 4 tickets to Usher's concert and all I need you to do is promote it to your crowd. I remember Twister and even the Metro, when they ran Pop on the Saturday, they took out a full-page ad with the tour artwork and they're giving away 2 tickets to Usher's concert.
Things have changed so much, hey? Like these days it's all done by computer, but back when we were younger, we were literally pushing pieces of paper.
It was going out, handing out flyers, flyering cars.
Yeah, car bombing.
We
used to get caught and chased out of venues. So we used to go to venues and we'd use flyers and we would drop flyers in people's windscreens, and promoters, it was like a war thing. So promoters would literally, if they found out you're doing it, they'd chase you like security guards. So you get chased out like dogs for doing it, but everyone did it to everybody. It was like a big thing.
Exactly. I mean, we used to fly bomb the Metro car park back in the day because everyone would park there and go.
Yeah, one directly across the road?
Yeah. So, but yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that I was doing And then a friend of mine that I went to school with, he was working on a project, and he's like, I want to bring you to Mushroom and, you know, have a chat and get you to do, because you're running these under 18.
Who's the friend?
Richie.
Okay.
And he was like, you know, the under 18 market. This artist is, I think she was like 15 back then.
Yep.
Right now, she's a great writer. Like lives in the lives over in LA. Spends some of her time in Queensland, but she writes for everyone. And so I started working on that. And
Who was the artist? Is that
her name was Tarly,
Okay.
but the actual artist is Natalie Dunn.
Oh, okay.
Natalie Dunn has written, like, she's got, if you look at some of the tracks that she's done, I think she wrote the track Friends.
Yep.
Which was like, you know, had billions of
Yep.
streams. So, but she writes for everyone. And so I was working on that project. They liked what I was doing. I then, you know, they got me to do marketing and promo. I went from like 1 day to 2 days to 3 days to 5 days.
Cut your teeth, did your penance sort of things.
Well, yeah, you know, and just doing you know, from packing. Back then, we used to, when we do CDs, we'll send packages, we'll send, you know, here's the album, here's something to do with the band, and, you know, you got to send.
Who you sent to, like radio stations or something like that?
Off to radio stations, to music journalists.
Other promoters.
You know, there was a media mail out.
Yeah, no shit.
So, and that's, you know, we used to do that with, you know, with all the releases. And, you know, 2002, 2003 got made redundant.
So that was Liberation, right? You're working with
That was Liberator.
And was that under Mushroom?
It was under, that was the new label that Michael Gudinski started.
Yeah, wow.
With Warren. So,
Yep.
Because prior to that, he had sold Mushroom records off to Murdoch.
Yeah,
So,
okay. I actually didn't know that. I didn't know Gudinski sold that to Murdoch.
Yeah, so,
Still?
I mean, what's that?
Is Mushroom Records still owned by Murdoch?
No, Michael brought it back.
Interesting. No shit, I
So,
didn't know that. I've read his book, but I haven't got to that part, obviously.
So
For those that don't know, Michael Gudinski is arguably the biggest promoter in Australia's history. So you can't talk about any big bands or any big act realistically without his name. There's a couple of other guys, but he's the OG Melbourne born and bred promoter. He sort of started this industry for everybody in the industry, basically in Australia.
He started the 360 deal 50 odd years ago. And then Live Nation in America tried to do it. Like, I think they did it with Madonna, where they did the label, the merchandise, the touring, and it failed.
Yeah, really.
You know,
so he started in Australia.
He started in Australia. So, you know, it's, you know, in a few weeks there was a movie obviously about MG and called, you know, the Michael Gudinski story. It's going to be on Channel 7. So
awesome.
You have to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Because, you know, at the end of the day, when COVID kicked in, he was the only one that kept artists alive by putting things on TV. You know, he came up with obviously music from the home front. He did another TV series, music series on, I think it was like SBS or ABC, it's on one of those channels. You know, and he kept people alive. No other label or record label in Australia
Tried to do it.
did anything
Or
about
cared,
it.
probably, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
But he was sort of always like that. He was a pioneer of everything, right?
he was, and
So he did like, what was the Bushfire one at the MCG?
Sound Relief.
Yeah, Sound Relief, yep.
You know, and you know, again, he talks about in the movie, he talks about how Leonard Cohen approached him, Jimmy Barnes approached him, and there's like, you know what, we need to do something, and they did it between him and Chuggy in Sydney. They, you know, Michael ran the Melbourne event, Chuggy ran the Sydney one. I mean, Taylor Swift was there, Leonard Cohen was there, Kings of Leon performed in Melbourne. You know, it was raining. It was. You know, I mean, I remember being at that event, and you know, they raised, you know, $7-8 million.
Yeah, wild.
You know,
Insane.
Michael would always go out of his way, you know, to champion Australian artists and Australian music.
It's one of those things, right? Like in the music industry, we're always the first people to sort of like donate our time when something bad happens to kind of help out everybody.
We'll put up our hand and say, hey, we'll do it.
Yeah, we'll help out.
You know, I mean, we're kind of jumping left, right, and centre here. I remember one of the earliest tours that I was working on because when I got made redundant, I was working at the Metro, running the under 18s there.
So were they every Saturday, the under 18s back then?
They were Monday nights or Tuesday nights. It was like, during the school holidays. And we went from, 400 kids. We did the December, January 6-week school holiday. And by the 6th event, we sold out.
Yeah, wow.
Like we were doing 2,000 kids. I think we may have done 3,000 or 4,000 kids. We had 2,000 inside and there was like another 1,000 or 2,000 outside. And the line literally went around the block.
Crazy.
So
you've gone from that, running Metro, working the label, then going back to Metro, and then you started your career for which you've been working the last 21 years.
Yeah, so I started at Illusive and Matt's like, I need to run an under 18 event. We've got Brick Brothers.
Again, Matt Gudinski is Michael Gudinski's son who started Illusive, and Joey started with him when it started, yeah?
Yeah, so Matt had started it in 2003, probably running 3 or 4 months, and then it was him and Adam, and then they were running an under 18 event, got me to, obviously I was working there, and it's like, I did everything for him, and then he's like, do you want to come and work for me? And the first tour that I got to promote was Cypress Hill.
Yeah, wow.
In 2003.
Wow.
And the Metro.
Yeah.
Sold out. The support act was Hilltop Hoods.
Crazy.
And it was their first show in Melbourne. We didn't pay them a lot. I won't say what their figure was. It was next to nothing. And then they took that opportunity, and several months later, they'd sold out like 4 or 5 corner hotels.
Yeah, so that would have been a pretty iconic moment for Australian hip-hop, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's, and at that stage we had DJ Muggs was on that tour as well. I think he did one more tour before he stopped touring with Cypress Hill. And, I mean, it's, it was fun times. We worked with Cypress Hill, I think 4 or 5 times after that.
Yeah, crazy. What were those guys like?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, cool.
They smoke a lot.
Smoke a lot of what?
Yeah, I'll just say that they smoke a lot. Because I'm a non-smoker, so I've had some interesting times when I've been around the haze about.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Too long.
You might as well be a smoker if you're going to with Cypress Hill, surely.
You
By
just
default.
kind of just get you just get default. And I mean, I went from like Cypress Hill, 2003. Then it was like Africa Bombada, and then it was like Mark Ronson's first tour.
Yeah, wow.
And then on that City Rules tour, it was Mark Ronson, Daniel Merriweather, Scribe, Savage,
Crazy.
P Money. So it was kind of and
So that was like the peak of New Zealand hip hop when Australian hip hop was sort of bubbling too.
No, because I think it probably was about 6 months later after that.
Yeah.
And then we ended up doing I think it was the Stand Out Loud tour, which ended up being Scribe, Savage, P Money, Decepticons, that whole
OG New Zealand Dawn Raid days. Yeah.
And we toured it, I mean, from that tour it was pretty funny because, obviously the guys are fantastic to work with. Some of the guys were big boys in that touring part, and we were in Canberra, and obviously it's a propeller plane. We had to fly to Sydney, and you got all these politicians on the plane, and then you see these guys, and they just walked on, and everyone's just like, is this going to be an issue? So
Politicians and what were they? Where were they from? In Christchurch? Or Auckland and Christchurch?
No, yeah, it was a
mix of both of them,
it was just a mix, but, but they were great guys,
Yeah. I've had the pleasure to meet Savage. I haven't met Scribe.
He's cool.
Such a nice guy.
And over the years, every time I see, when I've been in New Zealand, we'll see, Savage or, see Scribe or any of those boys. Like, Joe, how are you? It's like, a hug and, and we just catch up on, and
Old
it just
times.
feels like, I spoke to you like 10 years ago, and feels like, yeah, we're still mates.
So because obviously you've toured so many guys when you've been working for Illusive or been involved in so many shows.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you make a lot of relationships with these guys, and I'm guessing you've traveled around the world, kind of making connections or kind of catching up with these people. Is that something that actually happens?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time, like we had toured Exhibit 2 or 3 times, and then I was sent over to LA, and Exhibit was like, "Oh, come to my house," and I'm like, "Okay, cool." It was like, and then went to his house, and and ever since then, we were, whenever, apart from last year, we've done every single one of Exhibit's tours.
Yeah, wow.
And he'll call me or I'll call him whenever I'm in LA. It's like, hey, come to the studio. It's just like, have a listen to what I'm working on. Oh, this is my new record. Have a listen to this. Tell me what your thoughts are on this. And, it's the same thing with a lot of, acts that we tour. Something that MG always used to tell me is like, it's not just about doing the one tour. It's about doing every other tour.
Yeah.
And that's why, he toured a lot, whether it's been Rod Stewart or
Ed Sheeran.
Billy Joel, Ed Sheeran, all those acts, because, they want to tour with Mushroom because, A, they know that it's good business and they don't have to worry about.
He was good at building relationships. So
exactly.
He's passed that down to everyone through the whole business, I guess.
And for me, it's like when I started working, obviously apart from doing the tours and all that, and working as a tour manager as well, is like always start the tour on the right foot. If you started off on a bad foot, it's just going to be hell.
Yeah.
And I mean, it does happen. There's been some tours where, it was just started off as hell. I mean, I'll give you a classic example. Fat Man Scoop. When I did his tour, not in 2006 when I brought him back, but prior to that, when it was 2008 or 9 or 10, we almost got into a fight in Sydney at a hotel.
Well, you and him?
Yeah.
Yeah? What over?
Because we just did not see eye to eye. Because, and he would eventually let me know what was going on when he came out in 2016. So generally, once the tour finishes and we were in Gold Coast, we played Shooters nightclub, and then they dropped us off at Brisbane International, or dropped him off, and then I was going to the domestic terminal. I would get out, take the artist to the check-in counter, make sure, see you later, have a safe trip back home, and see you on the next tour. It was like, nah, get out, close the door, drive off.
Yeah.
And we just did not see eye to eye.
The whole time?
The whole time. Because when he landed, he already had all these, ideas in his mind that we're the bad guys, even though we're the promoters and this and
totally
that. It's
get it.
like, and that's how that whole story,
Started.
It just started. And
You still tour him, right? Or you've toured him multiple times since?
In 2016, when we were planning R&B Fridays, they're like, the station wanted Fat Man Scoop, because Be Faithful, regardless, is always going to be a big song.
Mm-hmm.
And so I booked him because he changed management, changed agent, and when we saw each other, and we were in Sydney we had a party on one of the boats, and he's like, I need to come talk to you. He goes, I know who you are now. I just want to apologise. I had all these things in my head that you were the bad guy and this and that. It's like, you're not, so I just want to apologise. We shook hands and let it be. And, he's done over 100 shows now.
Yeah, wow. With you?
With me.
Crazy.
So, and this is going across, Australia, New Zealand. We've got shows that are going to be coming up in Asia and all that. So, it's, again, it's all based on relationship.
So the interesting thing for me, like I know what a tour manager is.
Yeah.
People I think that are listening to this have no idea. So I'd love you to explain like what a tour manager is and what they do when it comes to doing a tour, like what the actual responsibility of that role is.
I just tell people I'm the professional babysitter.
Yeah, it's like a boss, right? Yeah.
It's just making sure everything's set up for the show. I mean, when I'm on tour, I don't really drink. I don't do anything else. I just want to make sure that the shows run. You know, generally a lot of the shows that I also tend to do when it comes on the club level, the club pays for everything.
Of course.
Like production, the hospitality rider and all that. And generally the artist will come in.
It's all done.
Do their, whether it's 3 songs or 5 songs, host for the next hour, make sure that they're there for their contracted time and then leave. Sometimes they want to party all night.
Yeah, of course.
That's fine.
You just continue to babysit and wait till they want to go
It's just making
home.
sure that they get back to the hotel.
Yep.
And
Wake up
ready
for
for
their
the next day, and then we do it again. There are some shows we might have 10 dates in, 10 shows in 12 dates.
So you're sort of like a delivery guy, right? You've got to make sure that they're delivered to every single show in a workable state.
Yeah, it's sometimes there's been shows where I've had to look after one person, others it's been 10 or 12.
Yep.
And
these are high caliber artists, right? The guys you're looking after.
Yeah, I mean it varies. Like when there's the bigger shows, we'll have obviously
Multiple tour managers.
a production manager as well. Just
And what's their role? What do they do?
they're just to make sure all the production is. I mean, I'm not a production person.
Of course. So production is like lighting, sound.
It's to make sure the
Instruments,
lighting, sound,
microphones.
backline, everything.
Same
all
as
of
me.
that.
I have no idea about that stuff. So it's like I've been doing this for a long time, much the same as you.
Yeah.
And my production, I just trust the production guys. I know what they're doing. If it doesn't work, I'm upset.
Yeah.
But I actually have no idea even how to talk that language. But so yeah.
And that's just making sure that everything's there. If it's a small, 3 or 4 piece band, I know what I'm doing there. And we've got the contacts in regards to hiring the back line and just making sure it's all delivered on the right time. It's all set up before the band gets there, and the band just needs to tune in what they need to tune in.
So what's some of the artists, bigger ones or lower scale even, that you have TM, like tour managed? Who'd be the biggest one you've dealt with?
Little Uzi Vert.
Little Uzi Vert. When was that?
I did his first tour.
What, before the last Listen Out run?
Yep.
Yeah, wow.
It's 2018, I think. It took me about 3 to 4 months to get that deal done. No one was looking at Little Uzi Vert. It was just on SoundCloud. And I'm like, there's something about this kid. I'm going to reach out. Didn't even have an agent at that stage.
Yeah, wow.
Reached out to the manager, kept on going back and forth with the manager, and then we're like, we're going to, I think the deal got done 2 weeks before he dropped his album. And that album went #1 in America.
Yeah, crazy. How good is that timing?
And then I think 2 weeks later, we announced the under-18 events for Paul.
Yep.
And
Good life?
yeah, smashed it. Absolutely smashed it. And then we announced, obviously, the over-18 dates, and we sold out Forum, Enmore, Eden Hills. Auckland was almost sold out at Logan Campbell. And then the only one that was really light was, it was 1,600 out of 2,000 at Metro City in Perth.
Yeah, okay.
And he was great. I mean, he'll message me every now and then.
Still now?
Yeah, on Insta. Because it's all that relationship. He was shocked that, I'll be like, hey, it's cool if you want to take the next flight from Perth to Brisbane, but it's also going to cost you another $15,000.
Yep.
Do you want that to come out of your back end deal? Because you got to buy new flights, and you can't stay in the suite that you're staying in.
Managing the expectation.
And he was like, well, not a lot of people say no to me. And I'm like,
I'm not saying no.
I'm not saying no, but I also want to protect your interest as well.
Yeah.
Just to catch a flight between a 2:00 flight and a 6:00 flight.
Yeah, I get you. And I've also been in that touring mindset where you're like, you don't care. So not 15,000, but I'm like, you know, I don't care. $600-700, just fly me home now. I want to be home 4 hours. So I understand how they think. With that tour managing, no doubt there's easy ones and there's hard ones. Have you got some stories? You don't have to name any names, but some ones that have been super challenging of when you've been doing tours?
No, it's when you don't just get along with the artist.
Yep.
You know, and that, you know, they just don't want to do anything. People got to remember, it's like when you're promoting a show, or whether you're the tour manager or the promoter, you've got to remember we're all on the team.
Yeah, good point.
We're all on the team. We all want to promote the artist, and you know, it's not about me versus them or them versus us. It's like we're on a team. We want to put on the best possible show in this market.
For sure.
Because we can then bring you back again, you know, every 2-3 years. You know, I remember when we worked on the Roots tours, you know, they'll probably sell not even 5,000 or 6,000 albums in Australia, but they'll do 10,000, 12,000 tickets.
Wow, that's crazy. That's old school as these days.
You know, and I think when you look at a hard ticket seller compared to a soft ticket seller, they're always going to be able to sell tickets.
Yep.
You know, and I think in today's day and age, I always say there's two fan bases. Fan base one is your social media fan base. Fan base two is your fan base.
Your actual real ticket.
Because the fan base one is your social media one. They're going to like you on TikTok, like you on Insta, and listen to your music on Spotify and all that. But they're not going to go and buy merch. They're not going to buy tickets to you, you know, to see the show and anything like that. Fan base two, which is your fan base, they'll follow you on your social media, but they'll also buy merch. They'll buy tickets.
Put their money where their mouth is. 100%.
Exactly.
And we see it all the time, even from at my level when we work with guys, there's guys that'll do barely any streams, that'll sell 400 tickets, and then there's guys that do billions of streams who couldn't sell 100 tickets. So, which is something you never used to see really, but now it's that gap is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's getting bigger and bigger, and that's why, you know, when it comes to the promoting world, it's like, are they going to be able to convert that into sales?
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to convert that into sales in this market?
How do you figure that out?
In America, they'll probably be, you know, they're probably playing arenas and all that. But here,
so being a hip hop promoter in Australia, and obviously you're doing a lot of emerging stuff too, like Little Uzi Vert. I know I've seen you do a heap of stuff, guys I've never even heard of that sell out. What's the process, and how do you figure out if you think they're going to sell tickets? Is it a gut feel, or is it actually a metric?
It has to be a gut feeling, you know. And if you're gonna do it, back it.
You did Coda? Was that you?
I did Coda the Friend.
Yeah. I remember seeing that. I'm like, mate, do you want to go? I'm like, yeah. And then tickets just sell it straight away. I'm like, how does Joey know these guys? And I think I got my finger on the pulse.
But the thing is, it's like with Coda the Friend, classic example. I was following him, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a punt. I'm going to put him in Howler, put him in Oxford Arts Factory, Woolly Mammoth, and then Neck of the Woods in Auckland.
Yeah. I got attacked by bikies there.
It was kind of like, I remember that one. And we're going to just do 4 shows, in and out, and then hopefully sell them out. I remember the first day getting the ticket report, and I'm like, geez, this is going to be a slog. And then, you know, I remember Matt was like, oh, this is, you know, what are we going to do, you know? And I'm like, let's just wait, give it a few weeks. A few weeks later, Halabar had sold out, Oxford Arts had sold out, Brisbane and Auckland were still doing okay. Then we announced the second Melbourne show. Second Melbourne show was flying through the door. And then it was like, let's just do one more Melbourne show. And at that stage, COVID had kicked in.
I know. I was going to say that never actually happened, the show, right?
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
COVID had kicked in. And at that stage, I had, I'd Coda the Friend. I had another 1 or 2 other tours. I had Khalees doing Groove in the Moo. I had Bad Baby doing the Groove in the Moo. I think I had something like 45 shows.
Wow.
That I was just like, overnight, just
Stopped.
stopped.
So when you're doing obviously the big guys are easy, but like the lower ones, it legitimately is gut feel, or do you actually have any form of metric, or not at all? Like it's just, I think I believe in this music.
It's gut feel.
And 21 years of actual knowledge being going, I can see trends. Like even me, like I will pick stuff and people say you pick trends early. And I'm like, well, I don't. I've seen trends bubble before. So when I see those signs, it's even subconsciously, I sort of go, this is going to blow up because this is exactly what happened last time. But I can't explain it. I just know.
There's been several acts where I'm just like, hey guys, like Little Uzi Vert, what I paid him
To what he's worth now.
Getting paid now, like the guy's on $1 million US.
Yeah.
He gets paid big money. Same thing was like Little Dicky. I did Little Dicky.
Yeah, I remember you did Little Dicky stuff too, yeah.
I remember getting a text message from a mate who was also a promoter. He's like, you must have the biggest balls putting him on.
I
in
thought
these
that
rooms.
too, to be honest.
Everyone's like, are you seriously going to put him at the Forum for 2,000 people at Enmore Theatre for 2.5 and Eden Hills? And then I put him at Power Station in Auckland. But it all comes down to timing. Got the deal done in December, and the single came out in February, and the tour was getting announced straight off the single being announced.
So did you book that thinking the single would blow up, or just kind of happen as just good timing?
There was word that the song was going to be big.
Yeah, okay.
And I mean, for me, I always knew Dickie was going to do well.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to do that well where we went from, Power Station sold out, I think it was like 4 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
That we upgraded to Logan Campbell, and Enmore, we went from Enmore to Horton Pavilion. So, which is obviously a 5,000 cap room.
Yeah.
And you know what? The show was actually really good. It was a great show. I still talk to the manager today, on WhatsApp. We, Gator, who was in that new movie with Sydney Sweeney, when he needed stuff in Sydney.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just be like, Joe, can you help me out with, it's just like,
what do you need?
But it's all again based on relationship.
So with the American guys, I know
Yeah.
you've done probably more than anybody, I reckon. Sometimes they don't rock up, right? And it's this big thing, and lately it's been probably worse than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Why is that? So why do these American artists?
Are we talking about like after parties or shows?
No, we're talking about like actual shows. So like they're headlining a festival,
Yeah.
or they've come out for a headline show and they decide to come. So guys using like Trippie Redd, for example, or even like a Stormzy, whatever. But it's pretty constant. Burna Boy is another one.
Yeah.
It's pretty constant that when these big American or UK artists come, these hip hop, drill, sort of reggae artists, they don't turn up. So what, more than any other genre, I would say. Can you give us some insight on that?
It could be Visa. It probably could be that they weren't happy with the deal. But again, it's like if you're not happy with the deal,
Why'd you
why
do it?
accept the deal in the first place? They know what the costs are going to be associated when they're doing it. And sometimes it's the artist just being like, I can't be bothered flying 16 hours.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. So heaps of people
it's
like
just-
that. It's changed their mind. I've seen people right before didn't know it was 26-hour flight, so decided we weren't going to come. I'm like, what, really? But I guess when you're making that much money in the US, it makes sense. Like, why come here and make maybe less?
100%. I mean, I remember there was one tour that we did, and he cancelled it at first and then rescheduled, redid the tour, and they were leaving the US and in the middle of transit decided that he didn't want to come anymore.
That's insane.
Like literally the day before.
And what do you do there? Just go into damage control.
what can you do?
Cop the blame from everybody in Australia thinking that you've done something wrong.
Like I remember, doing, there was another tour earlier on when I was starting out Elusive, and it was a favour tour for the agent and the agency, and Matt gets a phone call saying, hey, we want X amount of money before we come, and he's like, well, you signed the contract, you know what the contract is. It's like, we're not paying it. Well, if you don't pay it, we're not coming on the plane. Don't get on the plane.
Yeah, don't do it.
We're not going to set a precedent where you've got a contract in
standovers.
place, and then you want to stand over, because that means every other act can do it after that.
But do you see it happen in other genres, or is it more sort of aggressively in hip hop that these sort of things
It probably
happen?
happens in every genre,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that's where the whole bidding war happens,
Yeah.
because you know, and we've seen it happen between festivals.
Totally, yeah.
You know-
you can see figures go up that are just wild, don't make any sense.
You know, who's got the biggest stick at the
Yeah.
end of the day?
Yeah, and they just don't, the ticket sales don't resonate what they're paying for these people.
You know, I remember when we did Black Eyed Peas, and I think it may have been the end tour, and we had LMFAO
Yeah.
on that tour.
It was huge.
I could not sell an LMFAO after party.
Yeah, wow.
No one wanted to buy it. Everyone's like, oh, no, these guys are gimmick of an act. And I'm
Yeah.
like, these guys, in the next 6 to 12 months,
I remember this
are
when they
gonna
first
be
came out.
big.
Yeah, and then they blew up like they were worldwide huge. I actually remember. I remember you trying to sell me that show.
I was probably trying to sell it to you as
and
well.
I remember thinking, I don't even know who these
I
guys
had
are.
like
It's a bit
even like
cringe.
Fluke, DJ Fluke. I'm like, and it wasn't anything stupid. It was like, hey, this is what I need. You know, let's just keep it simple. You know, back then, after parties used to be cheap.
Yeah, of course. Not so much now.
Now it's like, again, it's like everyone wants to be a promoter. Everyone wants to, you know, try and sell off after parties. And what they do is they just inflate the price.
Yeah. So I've seen anywhere from 10 to 50, 60, 70, even up to 90K.
I've had an artist that I've had to sell for 3 figures,
Yeah,
well over 100 grand.
which is wild. And so when we talk about these, we're talking about after parties where they go and perform at a club on a stage and they do like 3 songs. So
Yeah.
these aren't proper shows. They're effectively hosting fees, which are like, it's 3 songs off the record that they do on top of after their show. And it's announced like 4 or 5 days beforehand. And
Yeah.
people are paying over $100,000 for the right to do this basically. So you've been selling these for ages, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to run us through the process of how you sell them and like why they sell them?
For me, I think from my end, everything's controlled. You know, I don't have 4 or 5, because what happens is, I remember when we were doing the Drake tour, very first Drake tour, I had a person call me asking me if we'll be interested in doing the Drake after party. That's interesting.
It happens every time though. A big artist comes out. You're like,
It's like-
I remember Kid Leroy. I got offered like 4 different people. Were sort of calling me up saying, "Do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy this?" And the fees were like difference between $10,000 to $20,000 in difference between what they were.
And you know, so but that's what happens these days. Everyone wants to be a part of the, you know, they want to
story.
be. Yeah, it's like they want to be. You know, I'm the making it happen person.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
It's wild. And you see the cash on the side of stage. Like I've seen the envelopes where they're passing them on. No doubt.
I've had to
Pick those envelopes
There's
up.
been times where I've had to go and exchange, you know, AUD to USD
Yeah, wow. For the promoter.
for the artist.
And what do the artists do when they get this cash? Because obviously we all know it's a bit of a cash currency, or used to be more so than now than ever. But what are they doing with this cash? Are they keeping it and pocketing themselves, or are they spending it when they're on trips, or what are they doing with it?
Some of it will be just spending it on trips. Others will just be like, we're just taking it home.
Yeah, I've heard of other people like taking artists to like Louis Vuitton and whatnot, and a part of their show deal is they're just buying them like bags and shoes and all kinds of wild, extravagant fucking designer products.
Yeah, see, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember there was one artist, they spent 8 hours at Louis Vuitton and Gucci. And I'm just like, I couldn't.
It's
why?
not for me. It's not for me.
It's not for me. I mean, you know, for me, I think one after parties, and this is a classic, was Snoop at Chase's nightclub. So Snoop in 2000, so I put all of Snoop's after parties together, his DJ sets, and he'd finished Big Day Out. He was supposed to be on at 1 a.m. to 2 a.m., 1 hour DJ set. From 12 to 1, we had Mac Miller. Anyway, I rock up to Chase's. I'll get there early, just make sure everything's set up, because I was already with them in Gold Coast, Brisbane, and I didn't do Sydney because that was already done via someone else. And I had set up Melbourne, Adelaide, and Perth. And 9:15, I get a phone call from the tour manager. It's like, Snoop's getting off stage now, Big Day Out. We're coming to the venue.
I remember this.
I'm like, what, to do do a sound check. It's not, no, he's coming to the venue now. We'll be there in like half an hour. I'm like, but you're not needed until like 1 a.m. We'll go to the hotel, chill and come. Anyway, so he rocked up at 9:45. Doors don't even open till 10. Walk him to the DJ console. He gets set up, starts playing music. And I'm like, he's like, oh, go and open the doors. It's like, you're not supposed to be playing now. No, it's just open. Doors open. 10 minutes later, he screams. I'm like, what? Ran back inside. I'm like, what's going on? People had just realised Snoop was DJing.
Yeah, when they first started.
You know, when doors opened. So it was like, then it was like 11 o'clock, he's DJing. 12 o'clock, DJing. Mac Miller rocks up, does his thing. 1 a.m., he's still DJing. 2 a.m., still DJing. And then like quarter past is like, nephew, can you please go and tell the driver to go back to the hotel? I'm like,
man, that's the best money ever spent if you're a promoter. I normally get 2 songs instead of 5.
oh yeah, but again, it all comes down to the relationship with the artist, relationship with their team, the relationship with the venue as well. You know, and that's how, you know, if an artist is enjoying themselves, they'll stay. But if you start dictating to them, oh, you need to do this, and that, they're not having fun. A lot of these after parties are them to let their hair down with their team.
Yeah.
You know, and just make sure
Celebration.
that they, you know.
On that, there's obviously, people know about this. It's not a secret, but it's not really talked about. I don't know how far you can go into it. But at these shows, you sometimes will see an artist point at girls in the crowd, and then those same girls will disappear somewhere.
Yeah.
Is that a real thing, and how does that process actually work?
I mean, there's been times where I've been on tour where if they do come back to the hotel and anything like that, they all get ID'd.
Yeah, wow.
You have to make sure that they are 18 plus. And sometimes they'll be, you know, it's not just show us your license, show us 2 or 3 other forms that have got your name. Because you might carry one that says, I'm 18. But, you know, again, it's, you know, they're trying to eliminate any issues from their end. No one needs that, you know, whether it's the promoter or whether it's, you know,
the actual artist.
Yeah, the actual artist. No one needs that.
That's an R. Kelly situation otherwise, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. But that does happen. So artists will specifically pick people and ask for them to be.
And phones can be confiscated as well.
Yeah, I've heard NDAs too. That's another one I've heard too.
Yep. They've had to do all of that. You know, it just, these days with social media, everyone's pretty cautious.
Yeah, of course.
About the way, you know.
So that was it used to be a lot, I'm guessing, more bigger back in the old school compared to now.
You used to get away with murder.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You know, pre-social media.
I know that we've talked off camera. We're not going to bring it up now.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard some of your crazy stories.
That was a classic. You know, but then, you know, it's, some of those stories are just wild.
Yeah, never to be told on tape.
No, I can't. You know, so, but yeah, I mean, I've had, you know, other issues where, you know, I had a sold out show in Perth with Necro, and that morning he decided to get into a fight down the street and then gets locked up.
Yeah, wow.
You know, and then he had to go to court the next day. Massive fine. You know, I think it was $20,000 or $30,000 he had to pay, and we had to rebook flights and to go from Perth to Adelaide, and we literally caught the last flight. We were an hour on stage late in Adelaide, but we've gone from airport straight onto stage.
Crazy.
You know, and at that stage we also had merch, so it's like everything, you know, I had the promoter make sure everything was set up stage-wise. I'll then have to go deal with merch, get all the, you know, merch out and, you know, try and sell merch as much as we can, because then the next morning we were off to Auckland. So,
but those stories and those experiences are the ones that make you feel alive, right? And that's why I'm guessing you love it. So as a sort of summary, I guess a wrap up of what we've been talking about, like the last 20 years, would you change it? Have you loved it?
No, because, I mean, yes, I do love it. And, you know, I think, you know, you don't stay in the game this long if you're not honest as well to a degree, because at the end of the day, I can go to various clubs around the country and not have, oh, no, you work for so-and-so. I'm not letting you in.
True.
It's, you know, it's like, oh, Joe, you come in, oh, cool, what do you want to drink?
You've done a really good job of staying unpolitical in a political landscape, basically.
Well, yeah.
You know how aggressive you get to the promoters too, and you've always sort of been able to sit outside of that realm.
You know,
you have to though when you're doing what you're doing there, right?
Yeah, but you also need to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, and be realistic, because right now everyone's just, you know, you got certain promoters that are just like, hey, this act is worth 10 grand. Oh, let's offer 60 grand. And it's like, how the hell are you offering 60 grand on a $10,000 act? How are you going to make it work?
They don't care anymore. It's all ego, it's all TikTok, it's all Instagram, right?
But then what happens to the artist when the show doesn't work?
Yeah.
The show gets cancelled. And right now, I mean, you know, we're looking at, you know, I had, you know, Groove in the Moo, I had Jizza on there from Wu-Tang.
Yep.
I had 6 shows with Groove in the Moo. I had 4 headline shows, 2 that were almost sold out within 3 weeks of us being announced, including like 170 Russell. But we had to cancel that because there's a difference between 4 shows and 10 shows.
Yep.
You know, and even on a sellout and with all the bonuses that on the back end deal that he had, it still wasn't going to equate.
Yeah, it's sort of sucks.
And, you know, it's not like we're bringing Jizza, a DJ and a manager out, 3 people. It was a band show.
Yeah, full team.
So there's 8 people on the road.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
You know, people need to take into
consideration.
And you know, people laughed, oh, you know, Groove in the Moo and Splendor and all that. It's like people don't see
the fallout,
the fallout and the flow and effect that it has. You know,
on the bookers, the tourers, the towns,
the hotels, the accommodation,
the fish and
chip
drivers,
shop, the food vendors, the security, the people that wash the toilets. You know, there's 800-900 people that get employed. You know, that's just a festival. Now let's take that out and let's go to the venues for the headline shows and the side shows. Now,
it's millions.
I book an artist, and we'll just say 170 Russell. It's the venue. It's the venue security. It's the bar staff, production, sound, lighting. You know, again, it's the accommodation. It's the hotels. It's the drivers. It's the ticketing people.
It's the flights.
You know,
it's the touring agents.
It's the whole
production
ecosystem of it's not just, oh yeah, but they're just promoters. They can do it. They can afford it. It's not like that. It's everything underneath it.
That hurts.
Because everyone will hurt.
That's why I find it weird when people laugh too. Like everyone's like almost celebrating it. I'm like, I don't understand why you would celebrate something that A is people doing something they love, and then B, it's small business really that's getting hurt.
Exactly.
And I don't understand why people think it's hilarious to sort of laugh at these things falling over. But I guess that's a story for another time. But Joe, we're going to have to wrap this one up, unfortunately. I wanted to say we'll definitely get you back on again because we've got so much more to talk about.
There's more to talk about.
I would like to say thank you for coming down. And on behalf of my sponsors, which is also a brand that I own, WP Shots, the most delicious and #1 shot in Australia, I would like to give you one of our sour pussies.
Mate.
You can get these in Liquorland, did you know?
Yeah, I know.
Across Australia.
Mate, you guys have done so well with that.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for coming down, Joey. And
thanks, buddy.
Please, I would love to have you back in the next few months.
Done deal.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool.